I've played with first rounders who signed for millions, and I've watched them fail. I've also played with grinders who signed for nothing, nobodies from nowhere, and they lasted. Why? Because there's one secret that separates elite players from everybody else. It's not mechanics, it's not talent, and it's definitely not money. And if you don't figure this out, your career is going to stall just like theirs. Today, I'm exposing the secret every elite player knows and why you don't. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Ian Miller. Appreciate you tuning in. I was a 9-0 hitter from Little League all the way to the big leagues. I was a college walk-on. Man, I was just like you. And the 9-hole is where the next generation of underdogs become champions. My grind through Pro Ball, I saw a whole plethora of different things. I saw a whole bunch of different players, different flavors from all different walks of the world with different talents. But above all else, I saw absolute studs that signed for millions, that had first round money, all American clout, top draft leaderboards forever, since they're 10 years old, 12 years old, who melted absolutely after one single bad week. It blew my mind when these guys are able to launch monster home runs in BP over and over and over. They're able to throw 98 plus effortlessly when it's in batting practice or it's a flat ground or it's just a bullpen and it doesn't matter. These guys are able to lock in and make it happen. As I was able to play through my first full season, through high A, through double A, I saw rather quickly that these guys weren't used to failure. They were studs, but they weren't used to it. They couldn't handle it. They would struggle, and then they would have excuses. They would point the finger elsewhere, man. They couldn't take accountability. They would have the blame be somewhere else. They wouldn't be able to own it. And then they check out, man. And then before you know it, their careers are over. That's a vicious cycle right there. You struggle, you make excuses, you point the blame somewhere else, you check out, you start to lose it, you're not showing up with the same enthusiasm the next day. And then before you know it, it's the offseason, you don't get called back, you get cut, and that's the game. These guys signed for millions of dollars. They were top prospects. They were all state, all Americans, man. They were SEC players, and they just fizzled out. Meanwhile, there are some grinders out there that I got to play with, including myself, who set the tone, who could roll with the punches, who could look at these struggles that professional baseball brings and they can view it as a challenge. These grinders were able to level up and they were able to outlast their opponents, these first rounders and top prospects who had everything handed to them all the way here. I found out again, rather quickly, that there are two different mindsets that we can have as professional baseball players or as serious baseball players, man. We are going through our careers and we are going to be presented with adversity, man. We're going to get kicked in the nuts a little bit. Some stuff is not going to be fair for us, and we are going to either view it as a challenge or we are going to view it as a threat. There is no other option, fellas. When we dive into this a little bit deeper, let's talk about what that means. What's the difference between this challenge and the threat mindset, man? Where do you default to when shit hits the fan? Do you view a slump or a slight hiccup in your routine or your mindset or your production as something that you need to get in front of and attack and sit with and understand and build on? Or do you view it as something that is inevitable that you don't want to confront? You don't want to build on. You want to avoid it. You want to shrink and shy away from it. If we're viewing slumps and hiccups as challenges, which we should, we are going to attack that stuff head on, man. We're going to overcome it. We are going to grow. We are going to get better. I found out early in my professional baseball career that the grinders and the ones who make it look at this as challenges, man. Stuff happens, it's a challenge. How am I going to beat this, level up, and get over it? The guys who are not used to overcoming these challenges, they view it as a threat, man. This could hurt me. This could ruin my career. Dude, if I don't get out of this slump within the next 2 weeks, man, I might be released. This 0 for 15 streak, dude, this is a threat. This isn't something that I should build from. Time's running out. I got to avoid this. I got to fake an injury. I got to shrink down. I got to stop showing up for early work, dude. I got to get my mind right. This and that, dude. They check out. Which side are you on, man? Do you view adversity as a challenge, or do you view it as a threat? It's important to know that. I saw shifts quickly. I saw these millionaire draftees go from being the guy getting thrust in professional baseball to absolute nobodies. And it happened rather quickly. Please, please, please understand these things that I'm about to talk to you about and make sure it does not happen to you. Let's talk about the truth here and what the real separator is. Let's talk about what the truth is, the real separator, man. The separator is not your mechanics. Wherever you are going, whether it's on varsity, whether it's a D1 school, whether it is minor league baseball, you're playing indie ball, or you're going to be a minor league free agent, hell, you're going to be in the big leagues next year. The separator is not going to be mechanics. The higher up you go, the more that doesn't matter, right? Everybody's going to have good mechanics. Look at Hunter Pence's mechanics, dude. How did he separate? How is Hunter Pence able to separate from everybody else that has top tier mechanics? And this guy is swinging funny. He looks funny in a uniform. The separator isn't mechanics the higher you go up, fellas. The separator is your mental game. The separator is your consistency. The separator is going to be your confidence. Consistency. Can you show up every single day the same way? Regardless of what the stats said yesterday, regardless of what your streak is the last week, regardless of how you're hitting in April, can you show up with enthusiasm and do the things that you need to do when you need to do them so that you can be prepared for first pitch? That's going to be the separator for you. Consistency. Can you show up the same way every single day? A B+ effort over 365 days beats an A+ when the effort is only convenient. An A+ player who only gets after it when it's convenient for him is going to lose to that B+ that shows up the same way 365 days out of the year. I was that B+. Man, I was that B-, and I'm beating these first rounders, second rounders because they just can't stay consistent. And enthusiasm. Confidence, man. Confidence is your belief in yourself, in your capabilities, and everything that you've got, even when your stats aren't backing it up for you. Of course, everybody can feel sexy when they're hitting 350, 400, when they have a sub-2 ERA halfway through the season. Of course, man. But when those numbers aren't in your favor, how else are you going to feel that confidence? You got to believe. I've seen these first rounders fizzle because they never struggled before. Their confidence was tied to their stats. It was tied to how others viewed them. It was tied to the press following them along, making sure they were in every single Baseball America publication. They couldn't handle the failure. They couldn't consistently show up the same way every day. They couldn't get after it. They couldn't remain confident even when their stats didn't show it, and their mental game was poor. Moving on. What do we do with this information? Well, we need to shift from emotional mode and we need to shift on over to compete mode, and it is going to be paramount to our success if we can step up to the plate or we can toe the rubber and lose our emotions. We don't have that tied to us. We aren't acting on our emotions. We aren't gripping the bat a little bit tighter because we're pissed off from our last AB. We're not shaking in our boots a little bit and shaking with the bat in our hand because it's the bottom of the ninth and 2 outs and there's a runner on third base. We need to shift from emotional mode, dude. We need to lock in on being in compete mode. Before practice, before games, man, you need to reset. You need to refresh. You need to set an intention. What are you going to execute on at a high level? How are you going to do it? You just went through your day today. You are molded right now by the experience of your day. So if you had a shitty day today in school, if you went through the motions in class, if you failed a science test, or dude, you're in college and you lost your meal plan card and you're having a terrible day. You show up to practice. What is the mindset going to be like. The external outside factors are probably going to influence the internal voice. You're probably going to be a little bit down. You're probably going to be a little bit upset, man. How do we get out of there and get into compete mode? We have to reset. We have to refresh. We have to set new intentions. Reset breath, fellas. As you are going through your fall, through your spring, and you are executing at a high level, regardless of if it is in practice or it is in the game. Utilize a reset breath. Inhale through the nose for 2 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds. Exhale slow through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Hold for 2 seconds and then exhale slow through the mouth. Say one word. Attack. Free. Compete. You choose. What is your word and why? What's the intention going to be that you're going to set? We're refreshing. We're locking it in with a breath. We're resetting. And we're setting that intention that we're going to go crush. Major League Baseball players do it. They reset the body. Then it flips back into compete mode. Major League Baseball players have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars riding on their success day in and day out. If these guys are resetting in order to get back to ground zero so that they can compete at a high level with this turned off, then we need to be doing it as well. Build this into like between pitch routine. Build this into your between round routine, between game routine. Use resets to lock you in, get you going, and hunting towards a singular intention. Here's the reality. Mechanics might get you drafted, but they won't keep you in the game. The real separator is the mental game, gentlemen. Consistency, resilience, confidence. Elite players know how to suffer, they know how to reset, and then they know how to show up hungry every single day, even when things are not going their way. That's what keeps them alive when others fade out. If you want to install this exact secret into your game, start with the Mental Reset Blueprint. It is a free tool to reset, to refocus, and flip into compete mode like an absolute pro. The link is below. Check it out, grab it, and start playing with the mindset that separates the elite from everyone else. Appreciate you boys being here. Keep grinding.